All right, welcome everyone here tonight and also on the live stream. This is the July version of CocoaHeads Sydney, and we're gonna pick up the pace again from last month, which was the WWDC special. I hope most of you were there for that. That was really, really great, I think. So, but this year, this month, we're back here at Baloo, and we're picking up our sort of usual schedule where we've got a little bit of stuff to go through in the beginning, but then we've got a couple of talks and then lots of socializing and food and drinks and just a good time. So we're gonna do so good. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. And as usual, we'll start with a little bit of housekeeping. So no, not too many details here. I am Christian, as you might know. I've been here before. I'm taking the captain's hat on the ship today because Zach is in Europe, of all places. So, and he has to, sometimes he has to take a break as well and get a little vacation in and meet up with family and friends. So I'll take his place today. We also want to give a big thank you to our sponsor, Baloo. We are at Baloo's offices today, and myself and one of the speakers today work for Baloo. We're a small consultancy, and we believe in the, nourishing a community around what we do best, mobile development. So we support meetups like this. We, in this case, provide the venue, provide the food and drinks, and a place for everyone to meet and greet. We also have a code of conduct, and you can read the full version on the Sydney CocoaHeads website. But in short, it's all about being respectful to others, being inclusive, and being aware and speaking up if you see anything or anyone that might feel uncomfortable. So come to me if you've got any problems at all, or suggestions for that matter, on that area. We also have a Slack community, and I've added a QR code for easy scanning. I realized a link quickly is probably not easy to get, but it's there, and it's also on our Sydney CocoaHeads website. You're very welcome to join. We've got discussions going, and you can seek help. You can follow the latest news and things like that. All right. Now we would like to everyone welcome any new first-time attendees. Do we have anyone? Hands up. Wow, got a few, 8 or so. Welcome everyone.
Thank you.
And on that note, I also will give a shout out to our brother meetup, I was going to say, but the Melbourne CocoaHeads down in Melbourne. Same concept, you get together for a few talks and a good time. And they run on every second Wednesday? Second Thursday, sorry, on the month.
We also have 3 events.
Yes, and it's in my notes that they not only have a regular, meet up with the talks and that, but they also do a hack night, and they do like a drinks social only night in the weeks in between. So if you are around the Melbourne area, definitely look that up. They also have a Slack channel if you can connect to and hear more about that. All right, so I had a look around the community as well for upcoming conferences, and a few that I haven't tried or been to them, but why not highlight a few of our fellow meetups. One of them is the SwiftConf in Germany, which takes place in August 16th and 17th. We've also got the SwiftTO conference in Toronto, running on August 10th and 11th. And just a couple of weeks from now, on Tuesday, the 1st of August, we've got Brisbane.Swift, which is basically Brisbane's, it used to be CocoaHeads as far as I could see, but for whatever reason they renamed it. Anyhow, I'm sure it's going to be a good event. I'll be there in person, so that's also a great place to chat more. And looking ahead, as usual, we'll have our next event here at Blue on the 17th of August. And we are still looking for talks. I think we've got a couple, but we can always use 1 or 2 more. So if you have any topic at all, like it could be 5 minutes of something you've built or demo or anything at all, come see us, Zach or myself, or write to us on the Slack channel. We're really looking for people to come share what they're working on. And that brings us to tonight's schedule. We've done the housekeeping, we're done with that. And we've got 2 talks lined up. So the first one will be by Dan, building data sources with result builders. And the second one will be with Arun on so many architectures. Before that, we've got our usual hiring and firing segment. So if there's anyone hiring or looking for work or looking for a job, really, now's your chance to come up and say a few words about yourself. Yeah, come on.
So hi, I'm Sarur. So
Come up here. You're not getting out of that.
Gotta get through an interview. So hi everyone, I'm Sarur. So I'm currently a master's student here in Australia, but prior to this, I worked as an iOS developer for past 3 years. And so I was like wondering if there's like something that has worked for like 24 hours per week. So if there's some opportunity like that, I'm really looking forward to it. And apart from iOS, I also do a little bit of Python, big data, and all those sort of stuffs. Thank you.
Cool. And where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm actually available if you like search for Sarur Tiwari on LinkedIn. You'll actually see my profile, or I can actually like give you my email address as well.
Cool. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yes, come on.
Hey guys, I'm Liam. I'm from Germany actually. So when I saw Cologne, I'm like, oh, I'm not going back there.
That's so sick.
Germany's kind of boring. But yeah. So I'm Liam. I work for Moe, which is like a company from VW. It's like a startup. So we focused in ride sharing, self-driving cars. But then decided after 5 or 6 years iOS engineering, I wanted to move to a different country. So I had the choice between America, Australia, England, whatever. But I chose Australia because I love surfing and snorkeling. Yeah, now I'm here. So what I'm looking for is like, probably because of visa restrictions right now, it's more like contract work for 6 months or 3 months, whatever. Or internship in data analyst, maybe, I don't know. Just to, expand my knowledge in different kind of sections. But I know for sure I want to still like pursue my career as an engineer. And yeah, and next year I'm available for hopefully a full-time job.
Great. And where can we find you?
Tough question.
The page.
liam.ngy@icloud.com is quite simple. So yeah.
Great.
Or you can just talk to me. I'm available. See you guys.
All right. Anyone else? Great.
Question, I think in the housekeeping, did you mention where the loos were for people who don't know?
No, but thank you for highlighting that. I did actually think about it, but so it was raised to me that I didn't mention where the loos were. So if you need to know, they're out the door in the hall to the left, past the elevators, and then on either side for men's and ladies. We're ready with the first talk, which is by Dan, and it's around building data sources with result builders. So we'll give the floor to him.
So today I'll be talking about building data sources with result builders. I'm Daniel Sloan and I'm an iOS engineer here at Blue. Recently I've been dealing with result builders in my spare time and working quite a bit with compositional layouts. So I thought I'd try to marry up the two together into something. And so today we'll be going through a bit of more like a practical example instead of like a deep dive into result builders per se. So why do we need to build data sources? Well, table views, collection views, lists, also anything else, grids, etc. And often we find that when we build these data sources, they're actually inadequate data because we need to fill in a lot of gaps, such as the client needs to fill them in, as the backend might only give you part of the data. Okay, what is this data we're getting, etc. And we also might need to combine multiple sources for the data. Like we're getting the backend, but we also might get feature flags. And we need to put this together. And so really, what is the result builder? It is just essentially, result builder allows you to create syntax, essentially customized for your own domain-specific language. And you might have heard DSL kind of float around before. And I just want to see a show of hands who has actually used a result builder before. Okay. Not many. Okay. And what about SwiftUI? Okay. Okay. Well, what if I told you SwiftUI is actually a result builder? Yes. Dun dun dun. Is actually the view builder. For SwiftUI is actually a result builder. And that's why we actually have result builder today. It's because I wanted to create a declarative language such as SwiftUI. And if you've used SwiftUI, it's actually quite powerful what we can and cannot do. And why can we not create it for data sources? So I'm actually going to walk you through what maybe a simplified version. You're obviously going to have a lot of maybe a lot of data points that you might need to condense down. But let's look at it, maybe a simplified version of what a radio tab in Apple Music might look like. And so here's maybe an Apple Music radio tab. Don't mind the other language there. So the top button is subscription, and then in between Music One is a profile for your Apple Music. And so if you look at each section, we might actually have Music One, Music Hits, local broadcasters such as Triple J, news radio, etc. And it'd be really nice if we can just condense this down to something that is a bit more readable, a bit more testable, and a bit more contextual. And good thing is we have Result Builder to come in to add that kind of layer for us. And what would an end result look like before we get into the weeds? Well, it might look like this. We have a radio tab. I probably should have called it radio tab instead of just radio as a closure. And at the top, we have the subscription button. And then we have profile, and then maybe live and broadcast. It tells us what we need to do, what we want. And we pass the data that we need to give it to be able to build, which is the last line, to build and compile all of that we give it. All right, so now we're more into the weeds now. So before we get started, we actually need to do a couple things. We actually need to have a protocol for this instance, what I'm talking about. Protocol is really handy here in terms of being able to give you a generic type for what you would return on your build. You can essentially use that for anything and then discard it if you don't really need it at the end, which we'll see here shortly. And within the content builder, we actually don't need a lot of these functions here. A lot of these are optional functions that we need to tie into. But as you start building your result builder, you might see essentially what areas that you need. You need a pillar optional. What's actually quite interesting is halfway down where the build either first and second. That's essentially just an if else. But you really don't need that if you don't need it. It will actually tell you if you do. I'm not going to go into the weeds of this. This is more just a practical example. Okay, now we have a lot here. And so let's just step back and look. So this is the radio, the top bit, radio tab. And what we can actually do with this result builder is, if you look at initializer, I have actually two initializers there, basically the same. You can actually use result builder in parameters such as functions, initializers, properties. And here I'm just saying I can actually have an array of content buildables and also just a singular one that I just put in an array, just because you could potentially maybe have that. And the secret to all of this that we'll see eventually is actually the content buildables build. It's generic. It returns whatever we really want. And I just started to say list type. And to make it simple, I just said strings for all the associated types. Like you could have crazy data there if you want. For this example, it's just a string. And so in your buildables, you can just have for each that just checks and then just pins it and returns it back. And that's what your data source will eventually use. Could be anything really, but you're just looking for a list type here, both list type or an array, which we'll see a bit more shortly. But with this build type, what's actually really nice about it is because it's small and concise and not a lot of logic there, we can actually really easily test it into the future. And we'll see with some of the additional ones in a second, that it's just really small. You don't have to worry about any certain side effects. It's just, it is what it is. Such as both the subscription and the profile here. Subscription just takes in, at the moment, just takes in is subscribed. And then just returns if it's is subscribed, it just says subscribed. If it's new, if it's not, I probably said not subscribed there, but that's another story. But anyway, it should be not subscribed there for the button return. But what we can do here is, as you can see, it's just essentially 2 lines on the subscription. He is not subscribed. Or it's going to ignore it. We're not going to show the button in the future. And we'll just return a button if we need to subscribe. I probably should have changed that string. But it's an optional, and we're just going to ignore it in the future if it's not there, as you just saw. And we also have a profile, and we pass in the user profile. Obviously, user profiles are going to be a lot more there than just the name and is subscribed. But for this talk, I simplified it. And I'm just returning back a build that shows a button that's a profile. But as you can see, it's very small and condensed in what happens in each of these builds. Likewise, we have live and broadcast. We pass in content to both of these, and they just look at the types of each. Live is just, if it's live, we turn it to square card. It could be anything, it doesn't have to be square card, this is just for the example. And then also broadcast. It's a carousel, an array of strings. And if you get to the end, you'll probably see something like this. Isn't this much nicer to kind of read and kind of condense than what you might not see with using a different way about going data sources? Like, I don't know, just building an array, multiple functions together, combine, etc. And testing, as I mentioned, it actually makes it, with the smaller function, it makes testing very easy, nice and condensed, and it's all contained to each build function instead of separate parts. So you can actually just take the subscription, you can take the profile, you can take whatever, and just pull it out, have a separate unit test for it, and just test it. It's not hidden, it's not anywhere, it's all there. And thanks for coming. And these are some sources. I know I really like the interesting result builders. There's a lot there. There's actually like HTML result builder. Somebody built HTML result builder, which is, I don't know why you would, but that's quite interesting. And then the alpha docs, probably not, that's a lot to look, but if you just go to docs.swift and look for result builder, it's there.
Good.
No question? Any question? Hey.
What was that font you were using that showed the spaces and the new lines?
Wait. What do you mean?
The font for your code had like dots for the spaces.
Yeah, it's in the settings preference in the code.
Oh, that's just.
That's just literally just it. I'm a bit anal
It's
about
hiding
that
in
sometimes.
Oh no,
invisible,
totally.
isn't
I saw it and I wanted it immediately.
Yeah, true. It's really nice. I'm like, I really don't like space. Like, I want to remove new lines.
Yep.
If I can, need spaces. Sweet. Any questions?
So if you go to the last, can you go a bit further? Yeah, in here. So
Yep.
this is how you declare that, right?
Yep.
But what if you want to, so for subscribe button to take like a 2 spaces, so to change a bit the layout, is it possible or it's controlled? Yeah, because I don't see how you can here control the layout.
Yeah, look, I've made it pretty simple for this,
Oh,
like
that's
to make it where you don't go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, you can theoretically do that.
Mhm.
You know, like just like Switch UI, you have modifiers.
Mhm.
You could easily create your own modifier for these result builders and have essentially infinite sort of setup that you could create this type of I don't know, this type of data source.
So in your case, each of that, I don't know what's the right term for that, but this button subscribe, inside of this button subscribe is know how to render itself, right?
Yes. So obviously I just pass strings to it. It's the easiest thing, but you could easily just give it whatever you like.
Yeah.
I would hope
Great
I would hope that your data, whatever you're working with in your app, would have a lot more details. So I think it just really depends on what you are after. But yeah, you could easily set something like that. It would require maybe a bit more setup, but the build function would still be quite small and contained to what it actually does. Just checking your subscribers.
Thank you. Excellent.
No worries.
What is a common format for this data to be consumed by result builder? Like
I'm-
a JSON or what kind of?
Honestly, anything. So if we go back, if you want to create a result builder, if you look here at the content builder, I've actually created a tab alias at the top, and that just essentially says any content builder. So this literally says, as long as this conforms to this protocol, which is just an associated type with the build function, that returns anything you want. You can essentially, as long as you meet these criteria when you're actually using it, you'll know because it will be red all over your screen when you don't have build either or optional. It will be red over your screen. But where you can take care of this at, due to the generic nature of this, is in whoever actually uses it as the parent type. And so radio is the parent type. And I'm just saying, like, I want an array of list type. But if you looked at a later thing, if you look here, you'll see I'm just checking if it's a list type, or if it's an array of a list type, and I'm just pinning it. You can do anything you want with that. And as you can see, I have like a subscription just have an optional there. So it really and this type of setup is just we have a generic. You can just check for it.
Okay, thanks. One more question about dynamic render. Is it a built-in function, or we need to wrap it by any decorations to make it dynamic, like dynamic render, like Swift UI? When you change data, it's renders.
So I don't. Even you could do this with Result Builder. I haven't actually done this, so I can't really chat to that. I mean, you could probably set something like where the generic protocol you could have combined maybe in that as a
We need to
return type.
combine separately.
Yeah, and you could have something sort of like that. And the HTML result builder that I mentioned, I think that's dynamic render as well. So I think that's could be a nice thing to look at. But I haven't really touched it, so I can't.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right, any more questions? Great, well, give a massive hand to Dan. And I'm just gonna get set up. So we're just gonna take let's do a sort of almost 10-minute break for all the new ones to get some drinks and some food. So we'll reconvene at 7:15. Yeah, thanks for coming so far.
Like
All right, so we're gonna pick it back up now. We're back from the break, and we will start and hand it over to Arun for his second talk here, actually, but first today. So Arun works at Virgin. He's one of the lead. Sorry? Third talk here.
There was one before your time.
Okay, fair enough. But there's always one more. So Arun is the lead engineer at Virgin, and he's here to share his learnings around architectures.
Yeah.
So give him a hand.
Yeah, these are the learnings of my own. So it's nothing to Virgin stuff. Yeah. Letting you know how to say it.
Legal disclaimer.
1.5. And second thing is,
Not yet. I mean, I shot. All right. This is the preamble to what it means to talk about architecture from the team, so you all know what it is. This is it. So just third talk, second talk. That's exactly the architecture discussions go as well.
I'm just double checking on this. I almost killed the stream for a second there, but we're good. Now we mirror, do you want to extend it?
Yeah. Make it fast. It's easy.
Cool. Thanks, Arun.
Thanks so much.
This is a work in progress. I'll come back again. There's no code examples here. So I'll come back again and give you more code examples. So just like more like an appetizer maybe. Hopefully, you guys. Okay, and half of the things I don't have them in slides, so I'm gonna read it off my notes as well. So yeah, so those who don't know me, I'm Arun. That's my last name. I misspelled it. I have true story. One of my person working with me was asking for his visa referral. I misspelled it when I gave my name to him. Don't give the name. That's my name. I made it small anyway by the font size. That's the only way I can do it. So architectures. There's so many. It's a very hot topic. Very hot topic. If you can't come out of it on scratch, you're gonna make a long friendship with the person. If you can sustain that, see, that's your friendship. So many opinions, right? So many opinions. Which one is right, which one is wrong? Okay, no right, no wrong. It's just different perspectives. That's all it is. If you are not an engineer and you are approaching two engineers talking about architecture, just remember this. Arguing with an engineer is like wrestling with a pig. Sooner or later, you're gonna lie, find out. Pig actually enjoys it. That's it. So if you're outside of engineering, you're looking to engineers talking about architecture, remember this, walk away. Everything is fine. Nothing is wrong. So this like it's right from I started building started with the MVC, then got into MVVM, came here 7 or 8 years ago, listened to MVVM with coordinator pattern from Carl personally it, and then took it over there, put it in place, my workplace, and then it just scaled beautifully for our workplace. So I have a bit of a lean more towards that MVVM with coordinator pattern. I always think that it's one of the great ones. But I actually went outside and asked this question to people. What architectures you used in the apps you shipped or managed? Right? That's a key thing, right? Shipped or managed. Which one you used, shipped or managed? Just to see what are the other different perspectives are available there and what do they use, all those things. Put up at Sydney CocoaHeads as well, Melbourne CocoaHeads, LinkedIn, few Apple groups. Went across the aisle as well, asked the Google engineers at GDC as well. This is what it came out of it. So most people participate in the LinkedIn stuff, the Apple Mobile Developer Group. So we got this MEVM, most of the people said MEVM, 46% come across. Okay, they use MEVM in their app that they use to ship things. MVC 20%, MEVM with coordinator pattern is 19%, and the Viper is 15%. It's only 300 something plus participants. None of the survey is scientific, but just gives you an indicator. That's what it is. Melbourne, 34 participants, MEVM 35, with coordinator pattern is 26, MVC 20, others 3. Google Dev had that MEVM again 64. Modern app architecture is MEVM with mad skills, they call it. Is that right, Katie? Yeah. Flow. What is that? Flow?
Flow.
With the mad skills, you use MEVM with Flow, Jetpack Compose, and what's the last one? Jetpack Compose. Anyway, that's Google stuff. So I don't know much about it. So the 3 modern tech stack that they used to build it. So so modern app architecture is nothing but has MEVM underneath it, and they got MVP for 1%, MVA for 1%. Only 8 participants there, same as CocoaHeads. Yeah, we topped with the MEVM with coordinator. Zach might be voted twice, who knows, because he likes this as well. So that's what the results came out. So this is a high level macro level, right? What people are using it and what they, but I'm more interested in the comments that came out, right? When I saw this comment RIB, I thought someone was pulling my leg. So I went back and I looked at it. It's actually Uber's router interactor builder pattern they're using it. Right? So hopefully I'll put some code examples in for the next one. Let's see. I really don't know what that IBAN is. My search leads me to some kind of banking architecture. Is it? Yeah. Anyone know what the acronym for this?
Well, it could be international banking account number, but I'm not sure.
That actually came out. IBN versus Swift code.
I think
That
that
actually came up in the results.
was an architecture.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that person is definitely pulling my leg, but who knows? I didn't put that on the thing anyway. I'll try and find out in the next survey. TCA came out really good. It looks like there's a strong correlation with Swift UI and combined. Makes total sense. This TCA is composable taxi architecture. Makes total sense for it. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
No, sorry. I thought I was asking a question. Sorry. So it's TCA. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got what you mean. So I was walking in here with these things in my head. Daniel was talking about a competition layer in grid in the collection views. I was like, are you talking about architecture? So it's like, that's good. So that's what the conversation was. So this is the thing. This is great. Yeah, some strong opinions. Redux will do the best job for your app based on Swift UI. Otherwise, change it to it. Sure, we'll do it. MEVM coordinator is a great architecture for your app. Well done. Thank you. These 2 things are the interesting things, right? After your masterpiece, highly architected application has been passed down to others and market demanded quick fixes and changes to the delivered product, does it remain highly architected? As a tech lead, this is what I want to think about, right? Like, am I building an architecture that allows me to scale? Can I throw more people into it? When product demands me, provide me more features, can I scale my architecture to new screens, to new components, while keeping the integrity of the code intact? Can I test it? Can I add more features to it without breaking anything? So that's number 1, right? Second thing was, yeah.
I just wanted to say I feel like that's not what the comment said, because it says quick fixes and changes to the delivered product. I feel like the comment is more saying how easy is it to break your architecture for like a new person on the team? How easy is it to completely like get around it? Like how easy can they ignore it?
How easy they can ignore it? Yes. How easy they can ignore it? Yeah, but thanks for sharing the thought.
Yeah, sure.
Totally agree. Yeah, but isn't that this? Anyway, let's talk more detail of that. But yeah, anyway. The second one was the use of the term architecture without understanding the difference between a pattern and architecture proves that your idea of architecture is confused and wrong. The ones you mentioned are patterns, not architectures. What do you guys think about MVVM-coordinator? Is a pattern or an architecture? Any thoughts on this?
Architecture. Yeah.
Cool.
Depends on whether it's developed right through the app. So if it's consistent, then I would say it's an architecture. If it's not consistent, then it would be a pattern. Along with the other patterns that they've used.
If it's consistent to across your app, it's a pattern.
No, if it's consistent across the app, it's an architecture.
It's an architecture.
If it's in with other
Different
patterns, then it's one of many patterns, so it's not an architecture.
Interesting. You got me
Think
thinking.
of it like a house. If you add different rooms on,
Yep.
that's not architecture. Architecture is the
Whole thing.
structure and how you actually planned it.
It's like we're arguing about shades of blue.
Probably.
Let's chat more.
It's just a question.
I want to hear more of these perspectives. I want to hear this. I want to understand this. Let's chat more after this chat. Alright, so all this I have slides, I have these notes over there, my thoughts over there. So I'll try and share my thoughts. And then I'll come back again and then put these things in thoughts like if you think back and step back into like whenever we are writing some functions or something like that, right? We try and solve a problem to it. And then we write another thing to try and solve the problem to it. And then we look at what the two things are common across these two programs. And then we lift them out into a function. And then we share them across, right? Our first basic program, writing subroutines, right? So we pull them out, call the functions over there. Are we solving the same problem in two places? Is that the pattern in the code exists two places? Are we lifting this pattern out and putting it into a function? What do you guys think about it?
Yes.
Yeah? Good. So that's a pattern, right? Thank you. That's a pattern, right? So we are looking at this problem that we are trying to solve, and we are seeing this problem existing at different places, the same problem existing at same places. So instead of writing the same thing at two different places, we are lifting that same thing out, putting it in one place, and then using that same function to solve those two problems. Yeah? So as a solution pattern maybe to solve a problem in patterns. Anyway, everything is a pattern. So I'm messed up in my head at the moment. Don't know. All right. So when you look at the app or something else, there's a large, complex problem we are trying to solve here. All right? A large, complex problem trying to solve there. And that the side, how to say this? Like it exists at different levels. Right, there's one is a bigger level, and then comes into a smaller level, and then even to a smaller level. So, if you think from a big perspective, a bigger level, the fundamental organization of your code, where things goes where, is an architectural pattern. So, the architecture design pattern comes in. Go a bit more further down. We're trying to create some instance of a button at so many different places by passing in different themes. Which pattern comes to your mind? Factory? Can we call it as a design pattern? Maybe architecture is also a design pattern, it's a structural pattern. But anyway, let's a bit more. Going from a bigger level to a smaller level. All right? Go even further down. Programming paradigms. Yeah? Got to use the God to exist first. Yeah. Functional paradigm. Object-oriented paradigm. Right. So the programming also, like these different levels. So these patterns exist at different levels, like architecture shows that, the higher level. Idioms are specific to the programming. Design pattern solves the problems that you're trying to solve. And architecture pattern allows you to organize. It's more about the organization of where, what. So I see it more like a house. Here's a house. This is where the bedroom is. This is where the networking code goes. This is where the kitchen is. This is the front facade. This is where the UI goes. So this is how I think about it. It's my own. This is the metaphor I use to say it. I like Martin Flowers. This lens, Martin Flower. I can't say his name properly, so, and that's the link over there. This presentation domain data layering. This is the stencil that I use, that I throw it onto any of the architecture people talk about it, and I try to see it from through this lens. So you got the presentation layer. Yeah, got the presentation layer, deals with the UI and all the stuff. Domain layer, your business logic goes in, and you got the data, the immutable entities that you actually use to display all the way to the top. And then you get across some changes, and then performance changes to the layer somewhere underneath. So this 3-layer stencil, yes?
I realized I can actually ask a question, sorry. Isn't that just a clean architecture?
Is it?
I'm just asking a question now.
Clean architecture? Let's get back to you on later.
Okay.
I haven't gone into all those different comparisons yet. Is it clean architecture? Is it so everything is the same thing? We don't know.
I'm just curious.
Every time I speak to it, once I throw this thing into it, there is a clear separation over there. But anyway, I'll come back to it probably next talk or something. But thanks for the question.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll definitely. Yeah. With this in mind, with this here, we can put all the different architecture we spoke about, Viper, Clean, and everything together, throw them in, see where this thing falls into lens. But whenever I work with the colleagues that I worked, I always used to explain this where your networking code goes, where your business logic code goes, where the UI and presentation logic goes. This is what I try to explain. And something I found as soon as I showed them the SwiftUI and other things, but just to go into it, this is the another stencil I start to, so this is the stencil from Martin Flower, and here is the stencil that I start to give it to them. So every single time they're trying to build a new UI or something, just try and use the stencil to figure out where things go where. Yeah? Does a single responsibility comes out of this? Could be. But does flows. So we got the UI layer, the presentation that holds both view and the view model. How many of you here put the networking code in view model? No? No one? Great crowd. Love it. I treat them as an immutable state. View model is immutable for me for the presentation state. And then you got that, you can call that interactor to have all that business logic of what to do, when to do it. And then the services actually doing the network fetch or some data fetching to fetch that immutable entities from there. When I start to show this to the colleagues that I used to work, what they started to do, well, there's one thing missing here, right? The coordinator is actually doing the job of assembling all these things together. Right? I missed it in the picture, but maybe I need to put it over there. And there's a router over there as well that basically houses all the navigation logic going from one place to the screen to the other place to the screen. The way I use coordinator is to do the job of assembling all these things together. View and view controller is there. And what we are showing in the view is an immutable state, which is represented by the view model. And that view model state changes. And the coordinator does that dance of moving things around. Again, I'm not talking this from a SwiftUI perspective, obviously. Haven't used much SwiftUI, but hopefully soon put those things together. And then I always let the view controller own those interactor as well. And then the interactor owns those services. The view model needs something, need to respond to some of the actions coming from the user from the top. It will use the relevant service to fetch the data it wants. And I try to make it unidirectional as well. What I meant by unidirectional was, like, if you think in terms of functions over there, and if you say combine is there for you to use. So some published properties will be the one that will be feeding back the updates over here. And then if you want something from one layer to below, I always expose a function to let it call it. So try to give that model over there. So when I put this thing in front of the people, what they naturally tend to move towards was more like a Redux architecture.
Whoa.
So they go and naturally write it because they start thinking about what are the view actions the user can perform. So as a result of the view action, that's get forwarded using the view controller forward to the interactor. And then it goes all the way down to the service, fetches the data, and you can put some transformers in between these layers over there. So the request can come in, get transformed to the way the one that the layer below it needs, and then feed it back. And as a result, the view model changes to a new state. That picks up, renders a new change. So they started like naturally they started to write, Redux way of coding. So I start with this particular layer, and then they ended up like that. This is where I want you to leave today. Hopefully, more to come with some code examples, all the different architectures that we saw.
All right, let's give everyone a hand. Do we have any questions?
There we go.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, Dan.
I'm sorry, I should have asked it earlier, but I'm not used to asking questions in the middle. So you said TCA earlier, right? What's your thoughts on third-party libraries for architecture?
Don't use them. I don't want to. As a tech lead belonging to that enterprise, I don't want to be locked down from another third party. There's always something else comes up. So what I did was, I looked into TCA, I used it as an inspiration, and then I'll try to figure out what's best for it. It's good that you asked that. Like, when I gave this stencil to people, there's one thing about in terms of scalability I noticed was I can throw engineers into it, either vertically or horizontally. So a few of the engineers can come together, build the service layer across, or they can go and work towards these individual screens as well and explain what the contract exists between these two and then start building it together. So that's one point I forgot to raise. Yeah. So yeah, third-party tools for architecture? No. We had a question there.
Yeah, I was talking about architecture versus pattern, right? So how about app that has maybe 2 patterns? Oh, actually, no, that wouldn't be the question. So how do we know when we have something like MVVM and then clean architecture? Does that count as 2 architecture or just one big architecture? Because you can mix and match.
So MVVM and clean, is it both an architecture, right?
Yeah.
Why do we have 2 in a single code base?
Corporations are a mess.
That's right.
Correct. Bonus 10 points.
Yeah.
Don't let product near it.
If you see the 3 spaces, right?
Yeah.
Programming paradigms, design patterns, architecture is also a structural design. Then you got that architecture pattern over there. If 2 exist, we need to try to move towards the one.
Yeah, but design pattern can be something incredibly small. Yeah, it can be just about using delegates or closures. It doesn't mean they don't go. Are they clashing? You could have dozens of design patterns and one architecture, and it's not a problem. So,
the way this is what I think about in terms of companies, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you want to pick, but once you pick as a team, stick to it. This is where the house is there, right? You know where the kitchen is. You know where the
till the new developer starts.
Yeah, that's the thing. How do you gonna make that? How are you gonna make that sustainable?
So actually for the MVVM coordinator pattern that you talked about, like who is like generally responsible for like passing the object from one module to the another? Let's say for an easy example, there's like a list and for a detail screen, I have to present the ID to that list. So in the MVVC pattern, you said, like who is like is the coordinator responsible for passing that object to the other one, or Who is it going to be?
Is that objects are being passed down, or are we going to establish some contract between these two? So if we think this is going to call a function, if we think this is an interface here, this is going to expose some functions, and this one is going to tell, if you want me to call this function, this is the contract to call. And this is the name of the function, and these are the parameters that you need to pass to it. So the layer above is responsible to fulfill the contract if this layer wants this object up. So I answered you in a different way today. So answer it. We can chat more. Any more questions? No, well, I'm sure.
Yeah, just one sort of an observation is a lot of this stuff uses specific cases and it's all lovely and clean and layered. But one of the most classic, well-known layered something is the network ISO model, 7 layers. It's fine as a generic thing and it's lovely to teach as a lecture subject, but it actually misses out some basic things. Is you at the top level sometimes need to know about the link at the bottom went down. Is there are often side channels that these lovely clean layered things presume that there is no other dependency, or that there's no, for instance, a push notification comes in that changes the data. It's not in your standard flow, and some of these simplistic layers don't deal with it very well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just an observation, but anyway.
Yeah, no. This is why sometimes I was, in my head, I was thinking, well, like, where does the coordinator sits in this layer? If it is a person responsible for building the whole thing, is it in the layer or is it sitting outside the box? And if it sits outside the box, who owns it? I don't know.
So, oh, sorry.
Go ahead first.
All right. Did you say you are building some kind of Redux thing in-house?
I'm not saying we are building some kind of Redux in the thing, right?
No.
What I was saying
Definitely.
was, if I give this stencil to these people, to my engineers, I start to see them gravitating towards that.
Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
You said that you took inspiration from TCA.
I said,
Inspiration for what?
No. That inspiration one. I wrote a network kit, probably that's kinds of leans on the TCA. I probably will share it with you next talk with the examples as well. We can see some of the inspirations over there. But I never showed that code to my colleagues. It's just like more of an experiment as a lead. If I say this, what happens there? Right? Where they are leaning towards it. But I have to pull it back from Redux because the people above doesn't know what the Redux is and they're worried us driving in the direction. Right? But easy. You got MVVM here, throw it in. Oh, we're still using MVVM, but we are using it in this way, in a Reduxy way. You still got MVVM.
Better than ReSwift.
Sorry?
Said better than ReSwift, the third party.
ReSwift.
That's Redux, but third party.
Ah, don't use that party.
Which ReSwift? Oh, okay, I didn't know there was multiple. Anyway, that's a different story for another day.
We'll take that as final question.
Sorry, could you return to the last key, please?
I wrote
I'm not familiar with the complete file in MVVM, but it's interesting. What is the main goal of interactor in this? Just to describe interface contractors between view model and services?
It's okay, let me step back a bit more. I know it's an iOS group, but I really like what Google says on their layered architecture. I really like it. Because what they have given to us was a bit of a flexibility over there, because you don't need to have all these layers in all those places. Yeah, why do you overcomplicate it? If you just want that entity and a mapper to map this view model, that's all you need, right? There are in some complex cases, you may not have only one services. You may have more than 3 services talking to 3 different CMS systems. And based on the action that's happening, it needs to pull out of those 3 services, do I need to call only 2 or do we need to call 3? And that's what the guy is going to do.
Oh, okay. It may combine many services?
Yeah, it's not combines the services, it just checks out okay, what are the services I need to use to fulfill the request that came from the layer above?
Oh, okay.
Right? And then once the request comes back, let's say it zips those responses together, pass it on to a transformer above so that can map back to the view model.
But yeah, I understand that we need like separate things to make, for example, tests to be like it should be tested easier when you have separate like a layer. But why we can't use like why we could not specify what services we need for inside of view model? Like
I have seen some code bases does that as well. I don't like it. It's my own personal opinion. I don't like it. As soon as I see it, I do everything to remove it. Because for me, view model is a immutable state, and it sits in that UI layer. And
it's not so hard if you change the data sources and whatever. You could rebuild your view model.
Yeah, and second thing was.
But it means that when view model gets some emits from the view, it just emits further to interactors and services.
If you want to do it that way as well, if you actually look at my real code, I actually push this on the slide. Right? What I do is I let the view controller own that interactor. So as soon as some kind of interactions coming from the view controller knows what to call. They use the interactor and it will use the services. And once the data comes back with the interactor, what it will do was the state that it is holding will change. The view model state it is holding will change.
Okay.
So it's just like Pinot data, or just for me, immutable ones.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So if your view model is immutable, does it then do all of your business logic, or does the business logic sit elsewhere?
Sits here. Sits here. The view model only has the presentation logic, in my opinion. And what that mean by that was, if there's $100 in my account, it would put us green $100. If I have minus $100, it will have in the red. And that's the logic I have in there.
Yeah, it might be worth looking into a thing called a configuration then, which is pretty much just a struct of your data, and that's what you use to format your view, rather than calling it a view model, which implies the actual business logic sitting in there. So it's configurations.
Yeah, configurations. Yeah.
That's really what you're headed towards.
Configurations. Have more configurations. Yeah.
And a lot of Apple's newer UI kit stuff and Swift UI stuff relies on that pattern as well.
Configuration. Yeah.
I just don't want to admit that view model sort of thing.
All right. And with that, give a big hand to Arun and also Ted. I'm going to save this one. Save this. All right. Well, what happened there? There you go. It doesn't really matter anyway. Yeah, so that will conclude this month's CocoaHead in Sydney, for sure. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for watching. The speakers will be around afterwards, I'm sure, to take a few more questions. I do want to remind you that Arun's talk was the incomplete version, and it is definitely a very opinionated topic. So I do want to remind you of that code of conduct. What do you think? Right, we'll see you all next month.